There is a silent suffering hidden behind the smile of the nice girl. She says yes when she means no. She hides her anger behind politeness. She sacrifices her peace to keep others comfortable. But remember this: a lotus does not bloom by pleasing the mud. It rises above it. Being kind is a virtue, but being overly nice at the cost of your truth, your voice, your boundaries is not kindness. It is self-abandonment. And the Shaolin path teaches us this. To master life, you must first master yourself. This is not a call to become harsh or unkind. It is a call to become whole. Because inner peace cannot exist where there is inner suppression. Let us walk the path that transforms pleasing into power, compliance into clarity. There is a saying in the temple: compassion without wisdom is like water without form. It spills everywhere and nourishes nothing. The nice girl is often praised for her gentle heart, her willingness to help, her constant availability. But what is rarely acknowledged is the silent exhaustion that follows. She carries 1,000 invisible burdens. Outwardly, she smiles. Inwardly, she drowns. This is not a life of peace, it is a life of internal noise disguised as harmony. The Shaolin path is rooted in the merging of intention and awareness. In our tradition, we say, right action must flow from right understanding. And yet, how many times does the nice girl act without clarity, agreeing to things she doesn't believe in, giving energy she doesn't have? In truth, when you say yes while your heart says no, you split yourself. A fracture occurs, not visible to the eye, but deeply felt by the soul. That fracture grows with every betrayal of your intuition. It grows when you accept disrespect in the name of being easygoing. It grows when you apologize for having needs or suppress your voice to avoid conflict. You begin to live in two worlds: the outer world, where you play the role that earns you love, and the inner world, where you store the pain of never feeling fully seen. But harmony is not the absence of conflict. Harmony is the presence of alignment. It is when your words, your actions, and your inner truth walk together, hand in hand. Too often, the nice girl confuses being liked with being loved. But to be loved truly, you must first be known. And no one can know the real you if you're always hiding behind "it's okay" when it's not, or "I'm fine" when you're not. The Shaolin path asks us to observe our breath, our thoughts, and our patterns. And when you observe with honesty, you will see this: that storm shows up in subtle ways. Presentiment in your voice, tension in your body, anxiety in your sleep. You become a quiet battlefield where no one sees the war but you. You may think you are being kind, but kindness that costs you your peace is not kindness. It is quiet suffering. You may think you are avoiding conflict, but avoiding outer conflict often breeds inner conflict. The Shaolin master does not avoid storms. He learns to move through them with grace, clarity, and power. And that begins by recognizing this truth: your emotions are not your enemies. They are your guide. If something feels wrong, it likely is. If something feels heavy, it is asking to be released. The body never lies, but we've been trained to silence its wisdom in favor of fitting in. To master the art of peaceful living, one must first stop lying to oneself. You must ask with courage: where am I being dishonest about how I feel? Where am I saying yes to avoid being disliked? When your truth becomes more important than your image, you begin to awaken. When your peace becomes more important than external approval, you begin to reclaim your life. And slowly, the storm inside begins to calm, because you begin to honor your inner temple as sacred and your energy as divine. Let others think what they want. Let them misinterpret your silence or your refusal to bend. That is not your concern. In Shaolin teaching, we are reminded Your task is not to control the world's perception of you. Your task is to become so aligned that no perception can disturb your stillness. And from this stillness, a new kind of strength emerges. In the Shaolin temple, every movement has meaning. Every breath is taken with intention. Nothing is wasted, nothing is offered blindly. This is because the path of mastery begins with the understanding that your energy is your most sacred currency. Once it is given, it cannot be retrieved. And yet in a modern world, so many offer their energy without awareness, like spilling clear water into sand, hoping it will grow something, but finding only emptiness in return. The nice girl especially becomes a vessel, constantly emptied into the hands of others. She gives her time because she doesn't want to seem rude. She gives her support even when her own soul is aching. She gives her forgiveness before the wound has even begun to heal. And all the while, she wonders, why do I feel so drained, so unseen, so invisible in my own life? Shaolin wisdom teaches that every act of giving must be measured with awareness. This is not selfishness, it is spiritual responsibility. A warrior does not enter a battle without preserving his strength. And you too must begin to protect your life force with that same precision. Because every time you say yes out of guilt, you deplete your inner reservoir. Being constantly nice, agreeable, available, that is not peacekeeping. It is self-susha. It is allowing others to feed from your light while you sit quietly in the dark. It is generosity turned toxic by the absence of boundaries. The energy you carry is not just physical, it is emotional, mental, and spiritual. It is what allows you to create, to connect, to rise. In Shaolin training, we preserve this energy through stillness, breath, movement, and silence. We do not speak unless the words serve a purpose. We do not act unless the action is aligned with the Dawa, the way. So ask yourself, how often do I act from obligation instead of intention? How often do I give what has not been earned? When you give without boundaries, without self-awarenesses, what you are truly offering is not love. It is your own depletion wrapped in a ribbon of politeness. This is why exhaustion becomes a companion to the nice girl. She doesn't understand why she feels so hollow after doing all the right things, why she feels invisible even when she is surrounded by people, why her body aches with a tiredness that sleep does not fix. But the answer is simple. You have been bleeding energy into people and situations that were never meant to receive it. Not every hand deserves to be held. Not every problem is yours to fix. Not every invitation is worthy of your presence. To live with power is not to harden. It is to become conscious of your value. And your energy, your attention, your presence. That is your value. There is a practice we do in Shaolin meditation. We sit still and observe the breath as it moves through the body, and we visualize a golden sphere of energy surrounding the heart. This is your core, your temple within. It is sacred, it is whole, and every time you betray yourself to make someone else more comfortable, that sphere dims, it flickers, it fades, until one day you can no longer find it, and you wonder why life seems like a performance you can't escape. But once you return to the breath, to the stillness, to the truth, you realize that the power was never lost. It was simply ignored. Let this be a new beginning, where you stop giving to prove your worth, where you stop tolerating in the name of peace, where you remember that what you allow is what will continue. Your energy is not a public resource, it is sacred fire. And not everyone deserves to sit by your flame. There are those who will only draw warmth from you and never give it back. You must see them clearly, not with bitterness, but with wisdom. In the same way, a monk offers incense to the heavens, but does not waste it on a storm. Preservation is not coldness. Detachment is not cruelty. These are the skills of the inner warrior. The warrior who has learned that to protect your light, you must sometimes walk alone, sometimes say no, sometimes close the door gently but firmly, because the world will always take what you do not protect, and the more you will be asked to give. And as you begin to protect your energy, to honor your presence, to become selective about who receives your time and your truth, you will find something you may not have felt in a long time. Calm. Not the false calm of avoidance or suppression, but the true calm that comes from alignment, from wholeness, from no longer abandoning yourself. And in this calm, something else is born. Clarity. There is no greater prison than the one we build from the need to be liked. It is quiet, invisible, and deeply self-imposed. And the bars? They are made of the words, what will they think? Will they still love me? What if I disappoint them? This is the prison that holds the nice girl hostage, not because she is weak, but because she was taught that her value is measured by how pleasing she can be. In Shaolin philosophy, we are taught to observe the mind as a mirror. And when the mirror is covered with dust of comparison, fear, insecurity, we can no longer see ourselves clearly. We confuse our reflection with the expectations of others, and so we live for applause instead of authenticity. We choose likability over truth. We offer a version of ourselves that is palatable, agreeable, pleasing, even when it costs us our own soul. From a young age, many girls are conditioned to believe that being nice is the highest virtue, that speaking softly, avoiding confrontation, and being universally liked is the path to love and respect. But the reality is far more complex, because people don't respect you for how much of yourself you suppress. They don't love you more for how often you bend. In fact, the more they forget your shape entirely. And one day you wake up staring at your own reflection, and you don't recognize the person looking back. The smile is familiar, but the eyes are tired. The voice is soft, but the spirit is suffocating. This is not peace, it is performance. And performance, no matter how well rehearsed, always comes at a cost. In Shaolin training, we learn to move from center, from balance. And that balance can never be found in the unstable ground of approval seeking. The person who lives for external validation is like a leaf in the wind, always moving, never rooted. She shifts her behavior depending on the room. She changes her tone to avoid discomfort. She says yes when she means no, and maybe when her heart screams enough. But approval is a drug. The more you get, the more you need. And with each dose, your true self fades into the background. You become addicted to being perceived a certain way, kind, humble, selfless, until the illusion replaces your identity. But there is a deeper truth, one that Shaolin wisdom whispers. You are already whole. You do not need to perform for love, shrink for safety, or decorate yourself with opinions of others to be enough. The moment you realize this, the bars of the prison begin to melt. The door which you thought was locked swings open, and you see that freedom was always waiting for you to choose yourself, waiting for you to stop begging others, to affirm what your soul already knows, that your worth is not dependent on applause, that love built on conditions is not love at all. So why do so many stay imprisoned? Because stepping out means risking rejection, and rejection to the nice girl feels like death. But in Shaolin, we do not fear death, not of the body and certainly not of the ego. Because only when the false self dies can the true self be born. Rejection is not a punishment, it is a purification. It clears the space where performance once lived and invites presence to enter. The presence of someone who no longer needs to be liked to feel at peace. Someone who is no longer rattled by being misunderstood, judged, or disliked, because the warrior within her is finally awake. And what does this warrior understand? That her life is not a democracy. Her path is not up for vote. Her spirit does not require permission to breathe freely. She walks the world not with arrogance, but with calm detachment. She knows that some will misunderstand her firmness as rudeness, her clarity as coldness, her no as rebellion, but she does not explain, defend, or justify her truth. And that the ones who truly see her, the ones who are meant to walk with her, will never require her to sacrifice her integrity to stay. The Shaolin path reminds us the bamboo does not break in the storm because it does not resist, it bends. But it never roots itself in shallow soil. The same is true for you. Bend when necessary, adapt with grace, but never root your identity in the fragile soil of others' approval. That soil shifts, it dries, it collapses under weight. But the soil nourishes you endlessly. It allows you to grow without performing, to speak without fear, to walk without asking for permission. And in this state of being rooted whole, unshaken, you begin to experience something rare. Stillness. A kind of stillness that cannot be disturbed by someone's judgment or someone else's disappointment. Because you are no longer looking outward for your reflection. You are looking inward for your truth. In the sacred halls of the Shaolin Temple, there are invisible lines that no one crosses, not out of fear, but out of reverence. These lines are not drawn in anger, but in wisdom. They do not divide, they define. This is what boundaries are. Not walls to keep people out, but clear lines that honor who we are within. For the Signet Zone, she has been taught that saying no is mean, that choosing herself is selfish, that disappointing others is a crime to be avoided at all costs. And so her life becomes an open field, trampled by the needs and wants of everyone around her. People come and go, take what they need, leave without thanks. And she convinces herself that this is love, that this is what it means to be good, to be wanted, to be valuable. But Shaolin wisdom tells a different story. It tells us that true goodness does not come from sacrifice, it comes from balance. And balance cannot exist without boundaries. Just as the monk tends to the temple gates, watching who enters and who must be turned away, you too must stand guard at the entrance of your life. Because not everyone deserves access to your heart. Not everyone has earned a seat at your table. And when you allow everyone in, when you say yes too often, give too freely, tolerate too much, you are not being kind. You are abandoning yourself in plain sight. You are inviting chaos into your peace and calling it compassion. There is an old Shaolin teaching that says, the river does not apologize for its banks. It flows because of them. The same is true for you. You cannot flow, create, or thrive if you do not know where your lines are. And yet, the nice girl often confuses boundaries with rejection. She believes that if she sets limits, she will be left behind. But in truth, those who walk away when you assert your let them go. Because every time you choose to protect your energy, you send a signal to the universe, I am ready to live in alignment. I am ready to be whole. But boundaries are not just spoken, they are lived. They show up in how you let people treat you, how you respond when you're disrespected, how you carry yourself when the world pushes too hard. And most importantly, boundaries are not about teaching others. They are about teaching yourself. Teaching yourself that you are worthy of respect, that your time is precious, that your emotions are valid, that you do not have to explain your no, justify your limits, or apologize for needing space. A boundary is not a confrontation. It is a declaration. I am not here to be consumed. I am here to be honored. In Shaolin training, the body learns to move with precision, but the mind must learn to pause. That pause is where boundaries live. The moment between impulse and response. The space where you ask yourself, is this serving my peace or stealing from it? And if it is stealing, then you have every right to choose differently. You have every right to close the door, not with resentment, not with aggression, but with calm finality. Because love without respect is not love. Connection without safety is not intimacy. And giving without balance is not generosity. It is depletion wearing a mask. The irony is, when you start to set boundaries, some people will call you difficult. They will accuse you of changing, of being cold, of forgetting your place. But that is only because they were comfortable with your silence. They were used to the version of you who twisted herself into shapes that fit their convenience. Do not let their discomfort make you doubt your growth. The world does not need more people who are nice at their own expense. It needs more people who are grounded, who know who they are, who do not betray their truth for temporary harmony. It is this knowing, this quiet certainty that begins to rebuild the foundation of your life. You stop rushing to explain yourself. You stop over-apologizing for existing. You stop giving people power over your schedule, your body, your energy, your dreams. Instead, you begin to listen to yourself, to your breath, to the subtle signals your soul has been whispering for years. Signals that say, you are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to choose yourself. You are allowed to be whole without permission. And when those boundaries are finally in place, not from fear, but from love, something powerful begins to awaken inside you. A presence, a silence, a sense that you are no longer chasing peace, but becoming it. There comes a time on the inner path when you realize you were never meant to be liked by everyone. You were meant to be real, to be whole, to be rooted in truth. The nice girl has spent her life perfecting the art of pleasing. She has mastered the subtle smiles, the soft apologies, the art of making herself smaller so others feel bigger. She has dimmed her light so that others won't feel threatened by its warmth. But beneath the performance lies a deep hunger. A hunger not for more approval, but for authenticity, for presence. Because to live your life constantly filtered through what others expect of you is to live as the shadow of your own soul. And the Shaolin way does not teach us to be shadows. It teaches us to return to our essence, to be fully here, fully now, fully awake. Pleasing is a survival mechanism. It is rooted in fear, the fear of being rejected, abandoned, misunderstood. And when we act from fear, we abandon presence. We become preoccupied with controlling how we are perceived, with adjusting ourselves to avoid discomfort, with micromanaging the emotional states of others as if their peace is our responsibility. Shaolin teachings remind us that true peace cannot be negotiated from a place of fear. It can only arise when we stand still in our center. When we show up not to impress but to express. When we no longer contort ourselves to fit spaces not designed for our truth. Presence is what remains when the masks fall away, when the roles dissolve, when the effort to be liked no longer outruns the desire to be real. It is not loud, it is not dramatic. It is the quiet confidence of someone who knows herself, who no longer needs to perform to feel valuable, who no longer waits for applause to feel worthy. It is the state of effortless action. You are not trying to be anything, you simply are. And in that simplicity, there is a rare kind of strength. The kind that cannot be taken, only emanated. You may have noticed that when you are fully present, people respond differently. Some are drawn to your calm, others are unsettled by it. Because presence is confronting, it reveals what others are avoiding. When you no longer play the game of pleasing, people must meet you as you are, not as who they wish you to be. And not everyone is ready for that level of clarity. But your job is not to manage their readiness. Your only task is to remain rooted, to keep your breath steady, your gaze soft, your truth intact. This is where the evolution begins, from pleasing to presence, from trying to be everything for everyone to simply being yourself without apology, from overthinking every word, every gesture, every reaction, to resting in the stillness of knowing. I do not need to prove who I am. I only need to embody it. In the temple, we are taught to let go of the mind's chatter, to return again and again to the breath. This simple act, coming back to the breath, is how presence is cultivated, not through striving, but through surrender. Not through force, but through allowing. When you are present, your energy becomes refined. People feel it, the way you walk, the way you listen, the way you hold space without needing to fill it with noise. You begin to attract not attention, but a resonance, not crowds, but connection, because presence communicates what words never can. I am at peace with myself. I no longer need your validation to breathe freely. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. The kind of alignment that allows you to speak your truth without sharpness, to set boundaries without resentment, to move through the world with dignity rather than desperation. And in this presence, the nice girl begins to dissolve, not as a loss, but as a transformation. What emerges in her place is not a woman hardened by pain, but a woman softened by wisdom. A woman who understands that being agreeable is not the same as being loving, that being silent is not the same as being wise, that being liked by all often means being known by none. And so she releases the need to be liked and embraces the need to be true. She no longer measures her worth by how easy she is to be around, but by how honest she is with herself. She no longer tiptoes around life, hoping not to disturb anyone. She walks with reverence, knowing that her presence is already a sacred offering. And the beauty of presence is that it does not require perfection. It only requires honesty. You can be present in your fear, present in your uncertainty, present in your learning. The key is that you are here. Not performing, not hiding, not escaping. Just here. And here is where your power lives. Here is where your peace breathes. Here is where there is a quiet revolution happening within you, the kind that does not roar but whispers, the kind that doesn't shout for attention but softly demands your truth. You began this path thinking you had to be nice to be loved, that you had to smile to be accepted, that peace meant pleasing. But now, something deeper has awakened. You've seen that kindness without clarity leads to chaos, that your energy is sacred and not meant to be drained for the comfort of others. You've realized that approval is a cage you can walk out of, that boundaries are not cruelty, but clarity, and that true power comes not from being everything to everyone, but from being fully present, exactly as you are. In the stillness, there is a great remembering. The woman who no longer bends to be seen, the soul who no longer whispers just to be heard, the presence that no longer pleads, but simply is. This is the evolution. From pleasing to presence, from noise to knowing, from the nice girl to the grounded, graceful, unwavering self. As the Buddha once said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. That is your practice now. Not to fix yourself, not to earn your worth, but to return to it daily, gently, quietly. So start today, not by rushing forward, but by becoming still. Sit with yourself. Listen to what is true. Feel where your yes lives and where your no has been waiting to be spoken. Guard your energy like a sacred flame. Let your boundaries speak your self-respect and walk with the kind of presence that does not beg to be seen because it already knows it belongs. To everyone who stayed until this final moment, thank you. Your attention is your most precious gift, and I honor that you've chosen to spend it here. May these words not just echo in your ears, but settle into your heart. And may your life become a reflection of one simple truth. You do not need to be nice to be whole. You only need to be real.